Hi guys, let's talk about papers today. My name is Anastasia Ivanova and I run two businesses, Sydney Paper Flowers and Paper Pro Tutorials. At Sydney Paper Flowers, I make paper flowers like this, and in Paper Pro Tutorials, I teach how to make them. And how often I get this question from paper flower fellows all over the world, and their biggest worry and their biggest pain: where can we get same papers as you, Anastasia, have? And you know what? Most of these people who ask this question to me, they think that I'm super duper lucky because they always see such a huge variety of different colors and types of flowers, colors of papers, and shiny and matte and everything. And I talk that much about papers and flowers, and people think that I am super duper lucky here in Sydney in Australia, and I have the access to all papers of the world because they see so many different pictures of paper flowers in my both accounts. I'll be honest with you, I'm also the one who has lots of problems with papers and access to different paper brands, to different paper producers, and I have not enough papers. And you can't even imagine how often I really almost cry when I see on the internet, on Pinterest, here on Instagram, on YouTube, other paper artists who work with other papers, those colors and textures which I cannot get here in Australia. And how sad I am here sitting in Sydney and thinking, oh gosh, they have this pale pink color. They are so lucky they are in US and I cannot get this paper because I'm here in far away here in Sydney in Australia. So this video will be about not where to buy this and this and this and that papers. It will be about papers in general. And this is my main message I want to share with you. If you'd like to become a paper florist, a paper artist, yes, you can choose this way. You can struggle with papers, finding all these resources and being sad always because you can't find them all, or you can choose a completely different way. You can start thinking of what kind of papers you have in your area. You can start making products, meaning here flowers, using this particular papers you have. Continue your search, but start offering the products, the beautiful flowers made from the papers available to the market, to your customers, and saying, this is what I have. And I would better suggest you to work on your skills, how to make that beautiful flower. You can work on your skills. You can search for the best quality templates, or you can create your own templates. It doesn't matter, but the beauty, the look, the final look of the flower depends on not only on the quality of paper you use, and not on the color of paper you use, not on is it cardstock or something very regular, or it is very expensive designer paper. First of all, the main thing about the flower, the main success of the flower lays in first in best template, the correct template, good template, professionally made template. I've been really struggling with this type of rose, with this size, with this type. I wanted to get this particular look for about a year. I've been searching for other paper artists, and I saw that they make this type of roses, and I liked their roses look. And I thought, and the rose which I have in my range, it looks you know, so. I wasn't satisfied for 100% with my old roses, and I've been thinking, what's wrong? I could understand that that's all about template, all about technique, but I couldn't create this one. And it took me for about a year, well, anyway, a few months to, you know, to make it perfect. And now, when I have lots of students around the world who purchase this particular template and watch my video about this particular technique, how to make this particular rose, all of them, absolutely all of them, they can make this rose, even if they started just 20 minutes ago. I mean, if they have no any experience, they have no enough skills for making paper flowers. What does it mean? That as long as you have perfectly made template, you can't fail with the flower. Well, you probably can if you really not a crafty person at all, and if this folds and curves and stuff is really hard for you, so then you will need to learn a technique. So even if you made, if you bought a template from a paper artist but haven't seen a video tutorial which this particular artist shows how to use this template to get a perfect flower, you may miss something very important, so you won't succeed in it. So this is the second thing about how to get perfect flower. First is a perfect template, and the second is a perfect technique. And well, obviously you need to have a skill, so you can watch, you can learn the technique, and then you need to practice, so then you will get this particular perfectly looking flower. And only the third thing about the quality of flowers will be papers. I'm not kidding now. This flower is made from absolutely cheap, regular quality cardstock. It's cheap in comparison to this designer paper. You can see it is just metallic coated shimmer paper, and this cost me just a fortune. I use A4 size paper sheets. That's the size of my palm. This is the size of the sheet. So this one sheet in this color, in this deep violet color, cost $1.70 here in Sydney in Australia. That's a lot. And can you imagine how many sheets of this paper I need to produce just one this rose? 5 sheets of A4, and now that just multiply 5 by 1.7 and you'll be amazed that much this rose cost me only in materials and only in paper, right? So sometimes for some projects, for some orders, I think twice or even thrice, should I offer this type of roses made in this paper? So it will be pretty expensive, and I'll tell you other not pleasant facts about the designer papers, so you will think twice or thrice as well before offering your flowers made from designer papers only. So this rose made from regular cardstock, and it is perfect. It looks absolutely perfect. This rose is made from regular cardstock as well. And this flower, it's made using just regular, it's not even cardstock, it's cover paper, because it is lighter than the cardstock is. Here it is 140 GSM, and this paper is 125 GSM, this pink one, and this is the cardstock 140. And you know what? This paper is absolutely awful. Yes, it looks beautiful, but if you buy a pack of these papers, and I buy them only from the retail store here in Sydney in Australia. It's called Officeworks. It's a big store. They have a network around Australia, and this is the office stuff supplier here in the country. And well, yes, they obviously have an online shop. I'm not sure if they if they ship goods overseas. I'm pretty sure not, but you can double check. But anyway, this paper I buy mostly not even online, but from the retail store, because that's very often you cannot even find it online. It's almost always out of stock. So I do visit one of retail stores nearby. But the paper is awful. It is soft, and the color of it, very tricky. Every time if you touch with the glue or even a drop of water, I can sneeze, or I can just drop a drop of water from my glass of water, or whatever happens, it stains. Water stains it, and once dry, it doesn't go away. The stain is visible. This paper is very soft, and it absorbs moisture very easy. So this particular shape or flower pretty hard to manage with this paper. So let's imagine this is a wall, my hand is a wall, and the flower is hanging this way. So this is the top part. So when this paper absorbs moisture from the air, it becomes a bit heavier and even softer. So the petals, they start falling down like this, and in a while you'll find your flower kind of fading, right, kind of dying, and just believe me, the look is absolutely awful, because it looks like this against the wall. So what I recommend to my customers, well, that's the only thing I can help you with, blah blah, sorry about this. You just turn this for 180 degrees, and these petals, which were at the bottom and were straight, they now become at the top, and they are still straight. And this petal being heavy, they straighten under their own weight. So from time to time, I just recommend to turn upside down this flower. So in order to do this, I need to add 2 loops here and here, so customers can manage it. So saying this, I just manage my flowers, my orders, and my customers. And if someone asks me to make this type of flower, you can see what type of it. It has, yes, not high, but pretty wide, so pretty heavy petals, which have only 2 points of connection, here and here, and the rest is free. So it can be it's flexible here, and it can fold down. It's loose, right? In comparison to the rose, where we have so many petals, they are very small. Each of them is very small, and they close to each other, and they form a very stable structure, and they have 4 points of connection. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the whole thing is pretty sturdy, and I can even push with all my palm on top of this flower, and I won't damage the flower as a whole flower, just maybe only the edges of petals here. If I push onto this flower, I will definitely damage it straight away. So this is soft and very fragile one, and meaning saying this, I mean that using this paper, this 125 GSM, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, super duper hot pink color paper, absolutely cheap one, from my local office supply store, I can make flowers in this size. Maybe I can go a couple of inches bigger, but not much. I won't say yes to the order when my customer asks to make same type of flower but in size, thrice bigger than this flower, because and especially if I know that this big flower will sit on the wall for a while, for a year or so. At least this is what my customer expect to have on the wall, a decoration for a few years. I will say no, because I know how this paper will behave, and this won't be nice. I would better go with this cardstock with other colors, or I will try to find any other solution. Very often my followers say, well, our worry is not about designer or cardstock papers. They are mostly about colors. So guys, I have this problem as well. Sometimes the customer may come and say, I want flowers in this particular color. And what if this is the only particular color paper I have available in my city? And I'm not joking. This is the only shade of that crazy hot pink which I have. And if someone wants huge flowers, I will better manage their request. I will offer them to change their mind and to get not this type of flowers in size 50 centimeters. Right? What 50 centimeters is? It is, wait a second. It is about 20 inches, just to for you to understand, right? So if they ask 20 inches flower, I would rather recommend them to get that type of rose, but in 20 inches size, right? Because the petals will be connected and the flower will last for much longer, being made from this paper. So the idea is you need to think about the type of paper, the quality of paper, the thickness of paper, and the type and size of flowers you're going to make using this paper, rather than chasing all possible and not possible opportunities for you to get these papers, and being said that your colleagues have the access to get these particular papers and you have no. Talking about the quality of papers and the thicknesses. So we speak most of the times about two types of papers, not coated and coated. Not coated papers, they can be in different thicknesses. When you come to the regular office, or if you have a home printer, and when you buy the paper, just regular paper to print a document in a printer, you probably understand what kind of paper you get. As this will be white and pretty soft and thin paper, called copy papers, right? So saying this, copy papers normally come in the thickness, well, I'll say GSM. I'll talk in this metric system, which means grams per square meter. I know that guys in US, you use pounds system, and it's a little bit different, but there's so many converters in the internet. You just Google the paper weight converter, and every time when I talk about papers in GSM, you just can have a look what it will be in pounds. So the 80 grams papers, these are regular ones which you may find in the printer. You can, well, it's very hard to show it on the camera, but you can hear the sound and you can see how easy I can fold this paper, right? But normally we do not make flowers from these papers. The next thickness in GSM normally comes in 120, 140, 160 GSM, and it's already, you can hear the sound. It's a little bit, it's thicker it's really thicker and it's not that easy to fold. But if you find the shop or supplier in your area which sells regular cardstock papers or cover papers, sometimes they call it this way, you can be amazed how wide the range is and how many beautiful colors are available. Even here in Australia, yes, RM has a big already, well, maybe not big, but not that small business. I purchase my papers from bulk suppliers, and very often it may be hundreds or even thousands of dollars purchase from one supplier. And so here it is, A4 size, so it is slightly bigger than letter size. So letter size will be till here, right? But very often I buy papers in size of 1 to, I'll tell you, 9. Yeah, when we cut it, it's 9 A4. So one sheet of paper can be cutted in 9 A4 size sheets. So can you imagine how huge these sheets are? And they come in packs of 200 or 250. Can you imagine one pack of 250 sheets just in one color? So sometimes I buy packs like this because I produce a lot and I have a studio filled with papers. So if you are not as big florist yet, and if you do not want to get that many papers straight away, you can start with looking for retail supplies in your area. In Australia, we have absolutely beautiful range of papers in just a regular shop called Office Works. Yes, as I said, it is a office stuff supplier, and they have a huge range of papers. You may experience from another hand that you come to your regular store, to your regular in the office work in your suburb, and you may find just a few packs of papers on shelves saying, hey Anastasia, you just said that they have a huge range. Right, but not every store has. So look for the biggest shop in your area. If it's not just next to you or maybe in the nearest suburb, just believe me, it will worth half an hour or an hour drive. Just go and have a look, because big shops, they have all this range. There's about, I would say, in cardstock range there you will find about up to 15 colors in pastel and about 15 colors in brights. So it's a lot. It's about 30 colors to mix and match. That's absolutely fine. And also they have about maybe 20 to 30 colors of designer papers, those which are metallic coated. Another shop here in Australia is Lean Craft. It's all about crafting, and they have a range of nice designer papers and cardstocks as well. The designer papers I use from them is brand Canson. That's French brand. And yeah, different colors from there. And designer papers from Office Works, they have their own brand called Quill. And metallic papers you can find there. Also Quill brand has regular cardstock and textured papers. So you start from this. You can start looking for at least for cardstocks and cover papers in different colors and start making flowers. Even if you compare one sheet of cardstock to another, you may find that they are different. This cardstock is 140 GSM. This one is 125 GSM. But when I compare them, they are completely different. This is so much harder, so much thicker than this one. And you may experience this pretty often. Sometimes you may find papers from same producer, not only same brand, because for example, these guys, you can see these are two different brands, but they have in their collections papers from different producers. So these brands, they accumulate different papers they just buy from producers, and they form their own range of colors and they sell them under this brand. So when you guys ask me what brand papers you use, well, that's about nothing. There are a few producers, they are the best paper producers, they are in Europe. Lots of papers come from France, lots of from Italy, and lots of production sites, they are these mills, they are in China. But so saying that, can you imagine, there's no any paper producer here in Australia, and paper is a very heavy product, so all logistics are crazy expensive. So when we buy papers here in Australia, we buy them from those companies who are retailers or distributors. They buy papers from different producers all over the world, and they form, as I said, their own collections. So if I say the name of Australian company where I buy papers from, and if you are in US, it won't help you at all, because if you decide to buy papers, even let's imagine they ship overseas, but I check with a few of them and they do not, but let's imagine if they do, the pack of paper 250 sheets, and if it is cardstock, well, even if it is designer papers, which is 120 GSM, pretty soft and thin, it will weigh about half a kilo. So can you imagine how many kilos, or how many kilos will be the weight of your parcel? And you'll pay for logistics, for the freight, much more than for the paper itself. So there's no any good reason to bring papers overseas if not only you yourself as traveling overseas, like I do when I travel to Europe or to Russia. I buy lots of papers and I bring the whole suitcase filled with papers. Yes, this idea worth it. Every effort, but buying papers online from overseas, no, I won't do this because it costs a lot. So trying to find papers in your area, you may find it's easier to find the cardstock, and you will find that it comes in different thicknesses. As I said, 80 GSM, this is a thickness for a regular printer, for printing documents. That's not for paper flowers making. You can use these papers, sometimes I do, when I start making an absolutely new flower and I'm not sure how I'll go. So that's like a trial version, like even for this rose or for bigger rose, I can cut all my petals out of very thin, very cheap, I don't care how it's looking paper, because I know that this will be a waste, so I make a flower using any cheap papers. Then I realize, I need to fix this, I need to fix that. Apart from that, I love the rest. So then I can go for more expensive papers. So that's the only reason to use printed papers. For your real flowers, which you'd like to sell to your customers, it's better to use cardstock in thickness 100 and over. Sometimes I work with parchment papers, and they normally come in, I'll show you now. Yes, I'll show you one sheet. I work with parchment papers, and they are 90 GSM, and there's, oh no, I have no anything. Yeah, 90 GSM, and they work for sunflowers, but I do not recommend to use them for flowers of this type where we have loose petals, because 90 GSM is still very, very thin. So here it is. It's light, and again, you can probably hear the sound. It's soft, absolutely soft. And the reason why I like parchment papers, you can see the color. They are not plain. They kind of feathery, right? Can you see this? Like this in camera, and I can show you. That's absolutely a rubbish flower, because that was one of my, that's not a trial version, but that's leftover from one of projects, so it lays under my desk. So you can see the rose, this made this way. So some petals are loose here, and some petals are like a rose button. They are pretty sturdy. So yeah, you can mix something like this, but I won't recommend to cut flower centers using these thin parchment papers. They may look beautiful, right, but they won't be sturdy enough, and so that's not secure, because there's a high risk that in a while your flower will look very poor. So parchment is the finest papers I use, and it is 90 GSM. Normally I work with cardstock in 140 and 160 GSM. I do not use cardstock normally, again, right, in 200 and over, because they are too thick. So the idea is, the smaller flower you make, the thinner paper you use. For this rose, I see so many paper florists. They do what? They make all the flowers in different types and sizes, using only one weight of paper, and it is about 210 GSM. For me, it's a craziness, really, because for this particular flower I used 130 GSM regular cover paper, not coated, not metallic coated. It's pretty thin, and it is white. I'll tell you about colors now a little bit later. The white papers, they are always softer and thinner than same papers from same producer in same thickness, 130 GSM, being made in color. So this will be thinner. So, and this white flower is made from 130 GSM paper, and I was mad on it, because it was so hard to glue, to curve every single tiny petal here. So I would prefer to use even something thinner for this size flower, for this type of flower. And comparing to this flower, if I make a rose that size, that big, I wouldn't go with parchment. I wouldn't, because then my rose wouldn't be sturdy. And as I said, I would never make this type of flower using parchment, because it will be even more fragile, even less sturdy, and I don't want this. So the bigger flower and the looser in terms of petals, in terms of connection of the petals, and this size, the bigger petals, the looser they are, the bigger size of the flower in general, the thicker paper you use, because you want the flower to keep the shape. So only roses are an exception. So you can, let's make it simple. If we compare a flower in the same size, let's say, but you can even see that they are almost same size. This is a rose and this is a loose flower. For same size, I would use thinner paper for roses and thicker for this type of flower. If we go 2-3 size bigger for both of them, you can imagine, again, we increase the paper thickness if we can, but still for roses we may use something thinner. I wouldn't use really thick papers for roses, just because, as I said, same as for this tiny flower, same for even this rose, which is let me check, almost 8 inches in size. I wouldn't use 200 GSM papers, because it will be still pretty hard for me to curve and glue all petals, and the tension here will be pretty high, so there's a higher risk that the petals will come off in a while. We'll talk about tension a bit later again. So think about this. So just manage the type of paper you use for different types of flowers you make. And every time, so that's why actually this question is freaking me out when people come and ask me, just showing me not even showing me the photo, just asking me, what paper do you use to make your flowers? No, really, guys, I have no one sentence answer for this question, because for my flowers I make different types of them, different sizes of them for different occasions. I use so many different papers, but the only thing is I use only those papers which are available for me to get in my location in Sydney, in Australia. So if I can get something online, it will be mostly Australia-based not producers, as I said, there's no producers, but Australia-based distributors or companies which sell papers, or retail shops. And I never ever look at the suppliers from, for example, US. I know that guys in US, you are absolutely lucky you have this Kelly's Papers shop, and when I see the photos from the shop, all these endless and endless shelves filled with nice, beautiful papers, I almost cry here. When I see your Michael's shelves from other paper florists, and especially the prices for all of this and all these shades, like you can get a pack of different shades of light pink, and there are about 5 shades of light pink. God, really, I'm so jealous. I have no this here in Sydney, but my flowers are still beautiful. They're still good quality, and they're still, I have huge range, just because I can just find just 2, maybe 2 shades of pink, and I can combine them with other colors, and I can create this set which will look so full and so nice. So you will think that I have access to all the papers in the world, but I do not. I just can work with this. I can manage all this. And I have very, very limited access, as well as all other people, as all other paper florists do. So, first of all, the bigger your flower and the looser petals and the bigger size petals you use, the thicker paper you use for producing this flower. What about thickness? So as I said, the producers of papers, they set standard thickness. If we say about grams per square meter, it's 80. It's for regular printing documents, and good for flower making as 140, 160 GSM, and 200 as for just big flowers, and normally I do not use them, just very, very rare. However, the thickness depends on 2 things when we speak about papers. When we speak about just cardstock or cover papers, so those papers which have no any coating like this, no metallic coating, it can be even a designer paper. Doesn't matter, but the thickness depends on the color of the paper. in order to understand this, you need to understand the process of paper production, right? So let's imagine, I hope you saw somewhere in the internet, a couple of times I posted a story about paper production, like homemade paper production here in Australia, from one of the ladies I've been donating my offcuts to. You can find it in our on Paper Pro Tutorials Instagram. In the highlighted stories, there's a few stories about paper production process. So what the homemade producers do to make papers, so they take paper offcuts, they actually recycle them, right? They make lots of tiny pieces, even smaller than I do now. They can even shred these papers, and then they add a bit of water, and in a while they get a mass like, you know, like a porridge, consistency of a porridge or so, and they let it sit for a while, and then they pour all this mass onto a metal net, very, very fine net, like the one you use when you pour water when you cook pasta or so. And this mass goes onto this metal, not a net, it's metal mesh, I would say, right? The mesh. And then the water goes down and the pulp stays on, and in a while it dries, and they sort of iron it to make it flatter and even harder and drier, and they get papers. Big producers, they do almost same, but they use not paper offcuts, they use the wooden stuff, like shredded wood with added a little bit of different type of chemicals. So, but anyway, the process, the idea of the process is the same. So they shred the stuff, so they get this pulp, and then they dry out this mass in order to get the color. So first of all, they blanch it, and they can get, this way they can get white papers. But in order to make something out of white, they need to add coloring agent, right? And then mixing all of these coloring agents, they can get different colors. What the coloring agent is, it's a chemical, well, sort of chemical, right? Depending on producer, they use different ones. But anyway, it's a chemical. So, and there is a chemical reaction of this pulp mass with a coloring agent. So that's why this pale yellow paper and this bright red paper may get different qualities. One may be slightly thicker, another may be slightly softer and thinner, just because of the outcome of this chemical reaction. I hope it makes sense. So that's why you may find that one producer or one brand or one company distributor who sells papers sell different colors, and on the pack you will see it says 120 GSM. One brand, all the colors 120 GSM. But then when you open the pack, you find, this is softer and this is thicker, much thicker. But on both said 120 GSM. So what's up? Why this different is in these packs? So just because of this coloring agent. When they produce metallic coated papers, actually the process is same as for these cardstocks, but in addition to the coloring agent, they add another chemical stuff which which gives this light reflection on the paper. And this the paper looks like coated, like lacquer on top of it, but there's nothing on top of it. There's something inside of it. There's some particles or some chemical stuff inside, so that's why we get this look. And what it does, this is just yet another chemical reaction, and we may get other qualities of the paper just because of this. So that's why most of the designer papers, metallic coated ones, they are thicker or more sturdy than those uncoated papers. You know what I mean? Because they have something else added to the pulp. Still, again, you may find that one brand, they declare one or same paper thickness or paper weight on the backs, and you may find that different colors are different in terms of softness. For example, this particular light gold paper is crazy soft, and I cannot make any flowers like this using it because it's soft and it absorbs moisture. It doesn't even feel like coated. It feels like just plain cardstock, or maybe even worse. So the only flowers I use this particular paper is roses, just because, as I said, because of the structure of the flower, the flower fills, and it is actually sturdy as one piece. So big size roses, yes. Small size roses, yes. Any other, especially loose flowers, no. Or why no? Just because, as I said, I cannot be sure in my big size flowers made from soft papers. But if I know from my customer that they plan to use these flowers for one-time event only, it will be just one night, and then I always ask this question: what for do you plan to use flowers, and for how long, and how do you plan to stick them on, and what do you plan to do them afterwards? So if I know that afterwards, straight after this event, after this beautiful wedding, unfortunately, yes, it's very sad to hear every time for me. My heart is crying every time when I hear this, but that's actually not my business, because my customers, they're paying for flowers. So if they pay and they say, after this night, we'll just discard them, we'll just put them in a recycle bin, that's it, then I can make any type of flowers using these soft papers, because they will be fine for just one night. However, there's still a risk, because it's better than to check how do they plan to style this, what the venue will be, what kind of the venue, where is it located. Because if it is location, we're here in Australia, we are on a coastline, so if it is a wedding on the open air on the coast, right, on the beach party maybe. So what does it mean for me as a paper florist? That my flowers will be installed in a high humidity area, because the closer to the ocean, the higher humidity is. So my flowers, which I've made from this tricky paper, will absorb all this moisture. And if we style, for example, for a wedding, let's say at 3 p.m. and the wedding starts at 6 p.m. and it ends by midnight, it means for me that my flowers will be outside for more than 9 hours, and I cannot be sure in this paper, right? You know what I mean? So I should always understand what are these flowers will be used for, and I always check with my customer, because if I do not, I may be in trouble, because I may think, all right, it's just one-time event, but in 9 hours, let's say wedding starts at 6, and by 7 or 8 o'clock, all my flowers made from this soft, yet yes, beautiful but soft paper. Let's imagine I made this type of flowers in huge size. They start falling down, the upper petals. The whole backdrop will be ruined. All those photos will be really not nice anymore, because they will be taken in front of my faded flowers just in a couple of hours. And especially, I taken into account all this weather condition in Australia. We have a high humidity, in general, and we have wet seasons, and we have just, you cannot predict, but sometimes it may be a rainy day, maybe not a heavy rain, but like a sprinkling, right? But what if the wedding is still on, it's still on the beach, and the backdrop made with flowers is still like up, right? But I use the soft papers. So in a couple of hours, everything will be just down. So saying this, you can manage your customers' requests. When they come and say, I just want flowers this type, this size, made from this particular paper, and that's it. You should negotiate this. You should communicate all the risks to them, so they understand why you cannot, why you say no. And don't be afraid to say no, because you are the artist, you are the maker, and you will so you know that's your responsibility. You are responsible for these flowers till the very end of the event. And sometimes mothers ask for a set of flowers, and they plan to style a nursery, and what they think that your flowers will serve them for a few years, well, 2 or 3. And what's in a nursery? Nursery should be nice and filled with light, right? And fresh air. So what we have there, we have a big window, and if we live in a climate like here in Australia, that's always warm, so windows are 90% of the day are open, and the humidity in the air is pretty high. So what we have, right, and some moms, they always have a humidifier. How should I call these machines which produce which work with the air, and they clean the air, and they make more humid air in the room. So saying that, I cannot use this paper and this type and this size of flowers for the nursery, because they will again fall down in a few months. And this particular mom won't be happy with the quality of my product, and she will say, I expected them to last for much longer. And even if I offer her just to turn flowers frequently, like once a month, she'll say, well, that's too much fuss around them, right? And she'll be right. So you should manage your custom requests about flowers. So you should guide them what you will do and in what colors. So this is the main difference between cardstock, regular cardstock, and designer papers. So these coated papers, they have an additional agent inside of this material, these pulps, which normally makes the papers thicker. And so you can, if you compare 120 GSM cardstock and 120 GSM designer paper, in most of the cases, designer paper, or let's call it coated paper, will be thicker when you touch it, even if they declare they are same weight. This is about the qualities and property, I would say, better to say properties of papers. What about the sizing? very often I see how you guys just absolutely mix all this names, well, yeah, the way how we call sizes. So just to clarify this, paper, well, as here in Australia we use one metric system, and in US you use other metric systems. So we speak centimeters and meters, and in US you do in inches, right? Same for paper formats. They may be different, more popular. Different systems are more popular in different countries. Here in Australia, we speak A4 and this range of formats. So this paper is called A4, and if I measure it, it is 11.5 inches by 8 and I would say 8.25 inches, right? And here in Australia we use A4. This is this size. A3 is like 2 A4s together, right? So twice bigger. A5 will be twice smaller, right? So saying this, A1 will be a huge sheet of paper. In US, more often you can find papers in a little bit different format, and it is letter size. They are pretty similar to A4. So when I compare our papers, small sheets, and US small sheets, it will be comparison between A4 and letter size. So here you can see that A4 is 11.5 and letter size will be 10.5. So slightly shorter here, and the same width will be here. Knowing this, that letter size is very popular in US, so when you come to your regular paper store, you very often you may find papers in this size. So in order to make it is a bit more easy and convenient for you, when you purchase templates from my shop, you can find, well, about 80% of our templates, all new ones come in this formats, and only old ones I need to still need to change them, still need to update them. But you sorry, you will find different folders with the, so what I provide. Let me show you. I provide an image of a template like this. When you see this on the screen of your laptop, you can see like somewhere in the middle of the file, this is the image. So you can use it and you can place in your cutting machine here and wherever you want. If you use PDF files and you cut with scissors, again, you just print out this template and cut it once, and this is your template you use. You trace and cut it many times, and very often for those who use Cameo machines, I provide one file which I call layout. So if I use, for example, this small size penny templates, this will be my layout for A4 papers. If it is layout like this, you can see that it will be suitable for letter size papers. If this is not suitable, if let's say I use any other images of petals, like for example this, right? You can see that these two circles are fine and they fit nicely into A4 size paper, right? But let's imagine I use letter size, which is shorter at this side. So I cannot use this layout for A4. Then you may find maybe another layout or suggested. Or I always add a remark to this, that if you work with letter size, you either cut only one image out of your size paper, or you shrink a little bit, you scale them down, one size down, and you still place 2 circles, but they will be smaller on your letter size. So it depends. It's not that much important, but that's just my favor for you, just to save you time, and or to suggest you the best layout for this particular size template to use with different format papers. Another format which you may find in US pretty popular, it is 12 by 12. For those who are not from US and from any other country which use another system for paper formats, it is 12 by 12 inches, so square pieces of paper. It is about 30 by 30 centimeters. These papers are available here in Australia, but not so often. Mostly you can find them in art and craft stores, and they come in packs of 25 to 100 pieces, and you can find them either in textured cardstock or in plain papers, but not plain in terms of color. They have patterns. Sometimes you may have a pack of 100 sheets, and every sheet will be different pattern. So they are pretty expensive, but I do not use them for flowers, because those papers with a pattern, they have pattern on this side and plain white at the back. So really hard to use for paper flowers. But that's for you just to understand the difference, and they will be square, so the layout will be different, right? So you may fit 4 circles then, not only 2 as I would do for my A4. So these are formats, because that's the reason why I decided to explain you this, because not very often, God bless, but sometimes I still get these questions from some followers. What kind of papers you use? And I say metallic coated papers in 120 GSM. And then people say, and what about A4? So this question really freaking out. Well, what do you mean A4? Yes, I use them in A4 format, but does it matter? Maybe in your location you can find other formats. It doesn't matter at all, because A4 is a size. It's nothing about the property of paper. It's nothing about weight, nothing about thickness, nothing about coating. So that's just size. So now I hope you understand what is about size, what is about thickness. What else to add here is when you start making paper flowers, it's better if you start with the regular cardstock, because you probably heard a lot from me about my favorite glue gun, this white, which I bought from eBay. It's no name, no brand, no particular seller. It's just a good quality gun for this money. That's about $30 Australian dollars. It has a temperature control. When we work with cardstocks, the cardstock, as I said, this is just a paper made from pulp and not coated at all, only coloring agent added to the pulp. But what does it mean? It is, there's a little bit tiny micro space between the particles of this paper. If you use a microscope and if you look look carefully on the structure of the paper surface, you will see that it is, it's not even. The surface is not even, and that's why when we use hot glue, it's a liquid stuff. It comes a little bit through these particles of the paper, so in between these pieces, micro pieces of pulp. So that's why almost any type of glue at any temperature of which make it liquid will stick pretty well because of just this particular surface of the paper. Once we come to coated papers, and some colors, I would say, just even for me, they are still a nightmare. I have this dusty pink paper you all ask me about. This dusty pink paper is a nightmare. If someone asks me to make this particular rose in this size and in this look from this color papers, this particular one, very often I say no. And very rare I have sets sets made with the rose buds in this color, because it's really hard to make them, because as I said, there's lots of tension in here. We have so many petals and they are so small, and these petals, this paper structure of this petal, it wants to become flat, back to flat position, and I want it to stay curved like this, and I hold it with just 2 points which are glued, right? So only these 2 drops of glue, they hold this curve for me. And if the paper is coated, and this particular this particular color is, when I touch it, it feels like oily. It even feels like oily. So when I work with the regular glue gun or with this glue gun on a low temperature, low meaning 100 degrees, the hot glue isn't hot enough, isn't liquid enough to work really good on this paper. So it stays on the very, very surface, on the top of the surface. It does not go through it. So it does not stick well. And very often you may experience that making this size rose with that small petals, in a while these petals here come off. And it's really a shame when you make a paper flower set and it looks fine. So yeah, maybe even you as a paper florist experienced all this nightmare making this, because you stick and it comes off. You need to hold for a while. You need to burn your fingers because you need to hold the hottest glue under your fingers, and it burns, it hurts, it's not a piece of cake at all. But even then, after this, you sell these papers, they travel to their customers and they hang it on the wall, and in a while they call you saying, Anastasia, you know what, your roses, the petals, they came off and they look awful now. Can you please replace your flowers? That's a shame, really. So very often I say no. So I can make a set of flowers for you using this particular color of paper. But in this color, I will make these flowers or something different. And the roses will be, let's think of another option for the color. I can make them in white. I can make them in peach or any cream, in nude. And then you start offering other papers you have in your range, in your drawers, in your studio, in your nearby shops, and you offer because you do not want to accept their request, saying, yes, I will make it. Oh, really? Yeah, whatever. Not whatever. Do not accept the nightmare requests for yourself. You know what I mean? If you say yes to everything, you will really make your life harder. Don't do this to yourself. So manage this. Another way to manage is just to work on your glue gun. So when you work with the regular cardstock, you work on a lower temperature, like 100 degrees. This won't hurt your fingers much. This will be fine. This will be stick pretty well, even roses. For designer papers, you just increase your temperature to 130 or maybe sometimes even 140 GSM. For the most tricky papers, like for example this crazy dusty pink, if you know that even your glue gun on this high temperature doesn't work well, you just change your glue sticks and then you use those. That's for now. That's the best glue sticks I found, named Gorilla. That's an American brand, and I found them only in US actually. I bought them on Amazon, and they shipped to here, and unfortunately now they do not ship anymore, so I'm sort of in trouble. I have just a couple of packs left, and I need to start thinking of where and how I'll get them again next time. But if you are in US or in any other country where Amazon still ships, so you can get them. They are the best. They work even on a bit lower temperature, and they glue and hold any papers, just literally any. So, and the reason why I do not use them always, just because they are much more expensive than my regular glue sticks, so I use them very carefully only for those flowers which are very fussy about gluing. So that's why I strongly recommend you, if you just start making flowers, or if you work on the flower for the first time and you are not sure yet how it will turn out and what tricky points it will have, you start with regular cardstock. And only then, if you are fine with this particular template and particular technique and this particular size of flower, then you go further and use designer papers. And the most interesting question, I guess, you may keep in your mind is where to get them from. So as I said already, guys, do not even try to find papers in other countries. Believe me, I am jealous to my overseas colleagues, especially to my US colleagues. But my US colleagues, they are jealous that I have other papers they do not have. So as long as we have internet, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and any other place where we can find or Google different pictures of flowers made by other paper florists, we will be jealous because, well, every country have their own paper suppliers and the range will be different. And we always will want to have more than we have at the moment. That's absolutely okay, but you may choose two ways: to start worrying about that you have no access to all the papers of the world, or you may start working with what you have and continue to looking for expanding the range of papers you have. How to do this? Just Google, and very often we find that the person cannot find papers in their country or their city just because they do not even know what to look for. So now you know that cardstock and designer papers, they may be called like metallic coated papers or shimmer papers or something like this, right? Or even designer papers, metallic designer papers. So what you do is you Google just these words in your area. You may find supplies, you may find bulk supplies, then just contact them first. Not think that oh no, they sell only in big quantities. It's always worth checking, sometimes you may find that, okay, they can split an order for you. Maybe you will find that they have maybe, yes, higher prices, but still they can ship a small amount for you, not the pack of 250 sheets in each. Where else you can find? You may find those companies who make wedding invitations and all this stuff like business cards, invitation leaflets, and something like this. So they are actually printer companies, right? They use all these types of designer papers. You know what I mean? So when you are invited to a wedding or a nice event, or when you get a certificate somewhere in a company saying that you are blah 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 and now qualified for this, very often they print out this stuff on a nice, absolutely beautiful papers. So find this type of companies, find printers in your area, and go and visit them, visit their sites, drop an email to them, or ask them in person. Just come and visit them, saying, hey guys, I'm very interested in your materials, in papers. Can you please share your supplier name with me? I won't be your competitor because I plan to make flowers. I do not plan to make business cards. I do not plan to be a printer in our area, so nothing to worry about. I will just make flowers. Can you please share some details where I can find these papers? Where do you get them from? And very often they may share with you some information. I found a few, those still bulk suppliers, but found this way. So you may get same outcome. Just don't be afraid to ask a question, and this way you may just expand this resource for you in your area. I would be absolutely grateful for you if you can share with me what you found in your country, in your city. You can send me a link or a name of supply, and I started collecting all this links and names of suppliers, and I have a few of them for different cities or countries in the world. I may recommend you someone, so you can contact me via Instagram account Paper Pro Tutorials. So I think if we do this job together, if we find and share new names around the world and share with each other, we may help to solve this problem to not only to us but to all our paper florist fellows around the world. So I hope this brought a little bit of clarification to you about the papers and their properties and qualities and what and how you can manage with them. So do not sit and cry that you have no papers. You have. I see that all of you have access to papers. Then you just need to, from one hand, start digging in, trying to find papers in your location. Stop asking me or your other overseas colleagues about where do you get them from. I get them from supplies in my country. That's it. This won't help you if you are not in my country, right? And start managing your customers' requests and start working with what you have. Get all these beautiful cardstocks. Those beautiful cardstocks, and make one set of paper flowers and then another set of flowers, and take a photo and start pushing it forward and start offering this particular set of flowers to your customers. Show them that the colors of the cardstock which is available in your area, they are beautiful, they are vibrant, they are absolutely gorgeous, and they can order this from you. You cannot imagine how many times I say no to my customers who screenshot the set of flowers made by my overseas colleagues, which have an access to other papers in their area. And my customers here in Australia, they ask me, can you please make same set in same colors for me? And I say no, because I have no these papers. If you want these particular shades, go to this paper florist, which you found in the internet, and ask them to make. And that's it. I can make something similar, but in colors which are available. So that's absolutely okay to say this to customers. I hope this will eliminate some of your worries about papers. You will be pretty well prepared to start your paper flowers making journey. You will have some fun with us on our online course for paper florists, for making basic flowers. I'll see you pretty soon. Bye-bye.